so far, from what I know and from what the data tells me and what also experts within the SEO world share as an opinion, is again EEAT. So experience, authority, expertise, and trust. So building a brand that Google truly believes is the go-to brand to get the information for generating those results is the most important part. How are you going to do this?
Welcome to the Product People podcast, where we discuss trends and actionable advice with great product leaders.
We're having Björn Darko with us here today. Björn is Director of Product at AVIV Group, focusing on SEO. And what we'll be discussing today is how SEO is a core component of a successful customer acquisition strategy for any digital product. Welcome, Björn.
Hi, thank you, Mirella. It's an honor to be here. Great that you started this podcast. I think there's a lot of product podcasts out there, but a lot is more on a general side. And I think talking to people that work in product gives more insights about product at certain companies such as AVIV. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Happy to have you. So for people just tuning in, our audience is in between mature product leaders, but also aspiring PMs. What's your definition of SEO in 2 sentences? And tell us what got you interested in it after that.
I think what I'm always saying is that SEO is an interdisciplinary field, especially in the digital marketing. And that makes it so wonderful, or makes it also so wonderful to work in, because it touches so many aspects of an online business. To be successful, you have to work on building an authoritative brand, and with this supporting marketing through content, through link building, whatever, and also make sure that everybody talks about your brand. You also have to support building an amazing product. That's why I'm at the AVIV, for example, so that a website, a platform, a marketplace, whatever, functions well for users, is understandable to navigate, fulfilling the search intent by creating the best landing pages, matching the interests of the users, and create an understanding architecture with URLs, for example, how and what to link from one page to another, touches so many aspects of a platform. If you would ask me why I'm getting up for work every morning, it's because I truly believe that SEOs make the internet a better and user-friendly place.
Thank you so much for that. So you began your career in a traditional SEO role, mostly in e-commerce and then publishing. Later, you moved on to the leadership role. Walk us a bit through that, and what was a pivotal moment that influenced your career path?
Yeah, so I'm somebody that always looks for new challenges, and you said it right. So I started in SEO for a lead generation platform, which was purely mainly on content, so very deep focus on content. Then I moved to Switzerland to work for the biggest auction platform there, and so I got to know SEO for big marketplaces, for an auction platform, and also got more into the technical role. Then I worked for a media company like the biggest in Switzerland, where I was supporting a digital transformation of a newsroom. They did traditional publishing, paper first, and now they want to do digital first, so I had to support them there. And then I also worked in consulting. I worked for a software company, and while I was working for a software company, I was promoted to the VP product because it was a software that helped SEOs and content marketers to do a better job. And so the role of head of product should be somebody that understands the problems and the job to be done of an SEO. That's how I got into products. Knowing that, of course, during my time in e-commerce and during my time in media, I always had contact, and always the biggest stakeholders were product, because as an SEO, especially with technical background, you have so many things that you want to change on a platform. So you start creating tickets, doing acceptance criteria, you work with head of products and with product managers to get your shit done. Yet it was always, you have to wait because we have other resources, right? And now, in my position now, I do understand it. Back then, I was always, product doesn't get shit done, right? There was always, they don't understand SEO, and I have so many tickets. I could actually bring more users to the platform, but they have no resources. That was always kind of the complaint. So with my first position within product at this SEO software company, I really understood how product works. And for me, it was a mind-blowing situation in 2 ways. First, as I said, I understood how product worked, how product management worked, and I understood that there is a certain amount of story points, a certain amount of resources that they use for every sprint, and they need to make sure that every stakeholder is kind of reflected in there, and they also need to prioritize what brings the most uplift now, and that's how they organize, right? That was the first time that I understood this, actually. And secondly, it was mind-blowing because I understood how close SEO is actually to product management, and how SEOs can learn from product management to be more effective and be more efficient. One example would be that SEOs always think too big, right? So if they come up with a project, they want to have a certain, want to create a new category on a marketplace. They want to do this technical thing, right? They always have a really huge ticket, a really huge idea, a really huge vision for that. And so they push this on the product manager's table, and the product manager said, okay, it's too big. I can't do it because I don't have the resources. Learning how to cut this into pieces, to iteratively think about how we can evolve this and put it into packages so that also product can work with it. That was something that I truly learned there, first of all. And secondly, I also learned that user research is really, really important when you come up also with SEO ideas, because that's what SEOs mostly doesn't do. So they just think, okay, based on the data that I have, based on maybe competitors, maybe based on trends that are out there, we need to build this. If the user really wants it that way, that how we envision it was never proved, right? It was never questioned, it was never researched. And so these are things that also SEOs can learn from product management. And that's why I really got into this idea of, okay, bringing SEO closer to product management. Then I took over a head of product role at an e-commerce store that was purely based on SEO traffic. So it was a good way for me to bring the symbiosis together and make sure that that product works well for SEO. And and then I ended up at AVIV now doing exactly the same as director of product SEO, making sure that our users at AVIV find our platforms on Google and we fulfill their intent.
Super. So that's a perfect segue into introducing AVIV, which is a pan-European real estate marketplace operating a few brands. So people will probably not know the name intuitively, but if they were to live in France for a little bit, they would know Seloger. If they would live in Belgium, they would know Imoweb. If they were in Germany, they would know Immowelt, and so on and so forth. And those are all owned and operated by AVIV, which also makes your challenge quite interesting because you have the multi-country setup or multiple languages, multiple preferred ways of discovering real estate and different ratio of preferences between buying and renting, especially if, for example, Germany being a renter's market, whereas other areas prefer to buy first. So, and another part that's interesting with AVIV is also how you're part of the product team, not marketing or other areas. Could you describe this setup, how it's currently organized in the user-facing pillars?
Yeah, I think first of all, again, to what I said in the beginning, why it's important that SEO sits in product for such a company like AVIV, right? As I said in the beginning, with a technical background as an SEO, product is your main stakeholder. And you create those tickets, you want to get shit done, but there are no resources. And so as an SEO, you're always dependent on the product resources. And I think AVIV understood this and saw an opportunity here to create one product team, so product managers and developers for an SEO pillar, so that this dependency is not there and SEO can autonomously and very flexible build their own components. When I talk about components in SEO, if you look at the product per se, then what are the most influential components for a platform, for a website? So it's the URL architecture, it's meta titles, it's internal linking, it's the content on the page itself, it's how fast is the page is loading, it's the robots text, and so on and so forth, right? So, and having the freedom of building those components the way how you want to have them in the pace that you need it, and also with the vision that you want to have it develop. That is, I think, a novum in the world of marketplaces, and that's what AVIV understood. So the structure that we currently have, you said it right, so we have 6 main brands in 3 different countries, and so we have one structure that is purely SEO experts, right? So people that worked in marketing before for those websites, we now move them also to product. They became also an SEO product manager role, and they also start now to do discovery. So in product, it's always between discovery and delivery. So, and those experts, and that's different of a traditional SEO job, they do now the discovery. So meaning they have a specific project like, okay, we want to build a new kind of internal linking system. So what they do is they come up with an idea, they sit together, they brainstorm, they create a prototype, and then they get it tested by users, validated by data, etc., reiterate on the prototype, get researched by users again, and so on and so forth, until we have the proof, okay, this could be the vision of a new internal linking system that we need, and then get it to delivery to our product product managers and engineers. So this is one side. And then the other side is then the product managers and engineers that are actually focusing on the delivering everything that is being discovered, everything that is being requested, and making sure that we develop our components that way.
Bjorn, you mentioned jobs to be done earlier, which I really love as a framework to synthesize what you're solving for a specific user or a customer group. How do you apply this to prioritizing SEO initiatives? As you mentioned earlier, that the beauty of this, it has a lot of tech complexity that you need to solve in order for it to be successful, but there are also things that can solve certain jobs for the user, like what content are you showing and where and how is that organized. Could you walk me through your process?
Yeah, I think the jobs to be done framework is one of the most important one in product management, to be honest, because, I learned it when I worked for a software company. Building a software is so dependent on the user who is using the software at the end of the day that there's no other way in order to understand how the user works with the product and understand the job to be done. What are they trying to achieve actually with your product? What do they can't achieve now, but you might help them, right? So getting into the user's boots and understanding how they work, what are their processes, etc., that is very crucial and helps tremendously to build a software, for example. Now, in SEO, we have the same kind of rules because what are we trying to achieve with SEO? We are trying to achieve to get more users coming from Google or from search engines onto a platform. So understanding the way how they search, like how do they use Google? Why do they click on a certain result on Google versus not clicking on a certain result? What attracts them, right? So understanding this and getting out there and doing this research and asking people, okay, please search for flat in Hamburg, and then just observe how they do it and just observe what they click and then ask them, okay, why did you click on this and not click on that? Really understanding this, right? And also understanding what they want on a, so once they have clicked on a result, they come on this product detail page, for example, understanding, okay, what is important for them and what kind of a situation are they currently, what is the information they're looking for, what kind of features do they need in order to do their research while they're on the hunt for a new flat. All the understanding this and then providing also SEO components that way, an internal linking box to maybe a checklist, etc., providing the right content, etc. That's what you need to understand. But for this, you need to apply the jobs to be done framework also on SEO. Otherwise, you're just guessing what a user needs and just trying to apply common sense from an SEO perspective, trends, etc., but never understands the user. And I think if you do this, then you're really understanding the search intent and understanding the intent why a user comes to a page and can provide much better information, much better feature set.
Super, thank you for that. And even in this setup where you have your separate development team, you still need to do different interventions in capabilities that are owned by different teams. So if we think of a regular marketplace or even an e-commerce funnel, you would have a homepage, you would have a search result page, you would have the PDP, a product detail page, and so on. And all of these are part of acquisition, either by going through a certain motion of searching and then selecting something and viewing its page, or landing directly there, as you gave the example with a flat in Hamburg. So this means that you always need to collaborate with the capability teams who have ownership of these specific areas or some other parts of the customer journey. How does this work in practice?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big stretch, right? I mean, first of all, the beautiful thing with AVIV is that the components that we own, we can develop into a micro front end. So we have no dependencies there. We don't need to talk to anybody. We can just do it on the fly whenever we want. That's beautiful. Secondly, if we want to come up with a new component, let's say we want to add a map view or we want to add something above the fold, etc. Of course, we have to talk to the other stakeholders, the owners of the page or the work stream. But here's like a not political, but it needs to be a collaborative approach because A, the people that are responsible for developing the entire page, they also want that their product is successful, right? That's important because they get measured of it. I do believe that a product manager is purely responsible for the performance, not only of their features, but also of the entire page. And what makes the page successful? It's not you create a feature and then maybe you get a few percent more conversions. You also need to acquire more users so that you can increase conversions substantially over time, right? So their interest should also be that you acquire more users, that more users see and use your product per se. So, and that's always what you need to convince also product managers. You need to come up with kind of a business case or like a growth case, so to speak, and tell them, look, if we do this, I would assume that we can reach X% more users that can use your product. And I think then you can open the discussion, and then also every product manager would say, okay, that's amazing. Let's try this out. And what happens then is that all the other stakeholders, design, the engineers, everybody work together in kind of a discovery workshop to come to the best compromise so that it looks good, it is usable, friendly for the user coming from Google, and it doesn't harm conversion rates or other KPIs that product managers are responsible for. So this is actually the symbiosis then of collaboration that still needs to happen. Even though you have your own development team as an SEO, you still need to collaborate and make sure that pages and that features and everything works all together for every stakeholder that has a stake in there. Maybe one example, when I worked for the media company back then in Switzerland, so developers, they get the ticket, they do the job, they develop, but they rarely see how successful is what they have built. And what I did with them is like whenever they have something developed and we saw a spike or something moving in the KPIs, I always went back to them and told them, look, because you have done this happened. And that's a beautiful thing. And that also gives them a bit more understanding of what they're actually doing, what they're actually delivering and developing, and also helps to get the door a bit more open when you come with the next request. So I think this communication has to happen not only in planning, but also afterwards. Okay, how does it perform? That's really important.
Understood. And are there other best practices you found most effective? So you've highlighted that owning your own component on a page slash capability made you more capable of helping that area, or while not being a blocker or having too much overlap with the teams that own the specific area.
Yeah, so again, like this collaborative approach is super important. You have to have enough face time also with all the other product managers to create a collaborative environment. It shouldn't be the case like back then in SEO where you are just a stakeholder, you throw tickets at them and then everybody's mad because the product manager says, okay, this is too big, and the SEO says, okay, product get nothing done. Also back then, I always set up a meeting with the product managers to understand their roadmap, understand what they're trying to achieve and where SEO most probably can help to squeeze my tickets in there. So that was back then when I wasn't working on product, already kind of step forward to a more collaborative approach. And now also like, of course, I'm a product director, you're a product director. If we want to work together on a specific page or capability, we have to work together because I can bring more users that use your features and use your capability. And with this, you are also more successful because KPIs go up, and that makes our bosses happy and that makes our investors happy. And I think that is what we always need to keep in mind, that together we are successful.
That's a good philosophy to have.
Yeah, I think so too.
Could you give me an example where you've also leveraged your role and position to drive product innovation? How is that
Yeah.
possible in an SEO context?
Yeah. So I think what is really important is, first of all, that you have enough visibility within the company, also in ceremonies that the product is holding. So all those showcase meetings, for example, where you also bring other product teams in. If there is something successful, then you're not just saying SEO has done this, but also team A, team B, team C has collaborated on this. And that's why it became so successful. That's A. B, I think that especially in the discovery phase, doing workshops together, not just throwing things at people, but doing brainstorming together. So a lot of product people also say in the discovery phase, an engineer has nothing to do, that they shouldn't be there. But I'm against it because I think once you do the delivery and you try to understand if it's feasible, an engineer needs to be there. So if everybody works on something, it's kind of their baby at the end of the day. It's kind of their baby. And so everybody wants to make it successful. And I think, again, like this is the most important part. And just one concrete example, in my previous job where I was head of product for an e-commerce platform, we completely revamped the homepage. What we did is we tried to create a homepage where you have a selection of important categories that are important in the season. So let's say in summer it's bikinis, in summer it's swimwear. It is everything that you need, like like garden furniture, etc. So, and we built tiles on the homepage that were actually internal links to a deeper category, but also worked well for the product people that were responsible for the homepage because they received more clicks and also conversions went up. And it was a collaborative approach. And we brought product managers in, we brought developers in, we brought designers in, and everybody worked on one compromise for this homepage. And I think that was a successful one. We also built sub homepages for subcategories, which was successful. So there are plenty of examples. Again, like I think the most important one is the collaborative approach in the delivery phase.
Got it. All right. And then we can't finish this podcast without discussing about ChatGPT and Gen AI in general as a trend that has been picking up since November 2022. And it's fair to discuss it because it has been so far the only product that has a chance to give Google a run for its money, seeing also how Google reacted very fast to these changes and even adapting their product to rather giving answers than results. So, how do you see AI affecting your SEO strategies in the near future?
Wow, there's so much stuff in there. I think about it two ways. One way is, of course, it makes not just SEOs, but everybody more productive. I think I'm also doing a podcast, and one guest said, and I truly believe this, if you as a person that works in a digital field not using ChatGPT or AI on a daily basis, you will be replaced at some point. And I think that that's essentially the key. So using AI to do data analysis, to create frameworks, to building something, make you more productive, that is something that truly changed my professional life and also my efficiency for sure. But on the other hand side, it is also super interesting because I think it's the first time that there's a disruptive threat for Google. Because what happens is, of course, ChatGPT was out there and Google also called out this red flag or red alarm where they also brought the founders in. Okay, how do they react to it? And in fact, I mean, Google was using AI long time before ChatGPT. So some of the capabilities use already AI. But I think the way how ChatGPT did it is like they moved users over from search, from Google search to ChatGPT's interface because they could do stuff there on a more extensive scenario. So searching
Without
for
all the ads.
exactly, without all the ads and searching, for example, for a nutrition plan for a half marathon. So it gives you a really extensive list and very detailed what you need to consider, what you need to do, like what are kind of ingredients you need for the food, etc. So before you had to go to Google and then you search for it, and you had to maybe go to 4 or 5 different websites to do the research and then bring everything together, write down everything, and it's truly time extensive. And now with ChatGPT, you get a list, you just download it, and you just do what you do, right? It's very time saving. That's A. And Google also saw that. And so they rushed to come up with Gemini, or it was called Bard before, or whatever they called it, AI overviews now. I didn't follow because they change it all the time. But anyways, and I think the fear was there because, it's very prominent and you don't have enough space for ads, right? And that would purely kill the business of Google because I think more than 97% of their revenue comes from those ads. It's a big threat for them. And so that was phase A. And phase B now is that ChatGPT actually also published their own search capabilities. So they're truly becoming a search engine. And that makes it very interesting because on two hands. One, SEO is not only considered to be on Google, we as SEOs now also have to think about how we can make sure that our brands appear in large language models or in ChatGPT in an interface or every other chatbot. And here comes the principle of building a brand and building an authority very, very much into the focus because there's limited space. You don't have 10 links anymore as you have on Google. You just have one interface that spits out most probably 1 or 2 answers, and you have to make sure that you're visible there. So building a brand becomes very, very important. And on Google's side as well. So with AI overviews, also there's limited space. So you have this prominent box above the fold. It gives you generated text through content, all right? And then on the right-hand side, so from the examples that I've seen so far on the right-hand side, you only have 3 results. And then all those 10 blue links, they are vanished, they are gone. So you have to make sure that you're get visibility on among these 3 results. And again, like building the brand, building a right product, building a good product that everybody talks about is very important here. And it really pivots the way how we work as SEOs so far. And it makes it also interesting for an SEO because it's the first time since 10 years that something new is happening. That's cool.
Yeah, it must be super exciting for you. And I've also been seeing work done by some companies to be included in the answers these LLMs provide. What's your opinion on that? And do you have tips for people listening in?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, Mirella. That is the question that everybody has to crack now to find answers for. But so far, from what I know and from what the data tells me, and what also experts within the SEO world share as an opinion, is again EEAT. So experience, authority, expertise, and trust. So building a brand that Google truly believes is the go-to brand to get the information for generating those results is the most important part. How are you going to do this? First of all, building a brand means you need to have a certain product, that's A, right? But also building enough content around it, because what is Google doing? They are going through your content. They're trying to understand, are you the most authoritative? Do you have the most expertise for this specific topic? And then take your information to generate the results out of it, and also tell their users, okay, go to this website because that's the most authoritative. Those guys have the best experience in it. That's the most important thing that you have to do. So investing in this brand, investing in the content, and making sure you have enough of them. That's on every page. So be it search result page, be it classic detail page, whatever page you have, make sure that you answer users' questions there. You have the best content out there, and that's the most important part. And then with authority, it's also like you have your product, also need to make sure that other people talk about your product. So make sure that you come up in social media, make sure that other people link to you so that Google also sees, okay, there's a strong connection between other websites and your websites. So it must be very, very important. And that's why we take this brand as a go-to place when we generate those answers. So there's so much in there. We can't just unpack this now in 1 minute, but yeah, focusing on brand building, expertise, and authority. That's my tip.
That's an excellent tip. And I'm also happy to see this trend emerging to demotivate people who just create junk content for reach. So I think this is excellent end to our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Björn. This was super insightful.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this Product People podcast. If you found it useful, please subscribe and consider giving us a rating. For more info, visit getproductpeople.com and see you next time.